My name is Charlie Weber. I'm a Cloud Solution Specialist here at Software One. With me and assisting in the presentation itself is Andrew Wolf. He is our Office 365 onboarding lead for the United States. Basically our Office 365 guru when it comes down to anything Microsoft 0365. So just kind of brief overview of our agenda. First, we're going to touch on just some of the cloud principles of concern. So as you're looking at Microsoft Cloud as an option, what are the things to keep in mind to make sure that the decision to move to the cloud is the best option for your organization? The last thing anyone wants to do is move to a platform where the pitfalls, the benefits, the cons, the pros are not fully understood. So one of our objectives in this presentation is really just to discuss the due diligence that you need to take to look at and make sure you understand if you are going to contemplate the move over to Microsoft Cloud, Office 365, or on the Azure front for the servers. We'll kind of go over some of the Office 365 incentives and offers. There's a great benefit going on currently when it comes down to O365 and that move, hence the name of the webinar, Renew to the Cloud. So it's an incentive just for renewing customers. That's a great benefit over there. Kind of look at high order of Office 365 benefits versus the on-premise solutions, as well as an offering that Software One has, our Cloud Sync services. So a kind of a pivotal step in the process towards moving over to the cloud and making sure that not only that you purchase the license in the most cost-effective way, but it's propped up and that the solution will be a success right away. Next, we'll kind of go over and how the Azure platform ties in to 365, not only from the capability standpoint, but also how Azure really is the backbone behind the Office 365 product. And it's really the next segue into kind of future data center, future cloud computing, and that's the Azure product line. Major factor to keep in mind, especially in cloud computing, is the identity management. So how are you going to manage your end users when transitioning into the cloud, and how does it relate? Kind of a comparison from on-premise to the in the cloud options. Next is the Azure onboarding services. So once again, another offer from Software One that we can facilitate. But as you migrate towards cloud computing, no one wants to go it alone, go up a river without a paddle. So some of the capabilities that Software One has in order to make sure that your transition to a cloud computing platform is seamless and basically from a knowledge transfer perspective that you're ready and armed to tackle this new platform and new services. And last one is next steps and questions. So some of the cloud principles, and believe me, I'm not going to read the slide to you, but there are some things to always keep in mind when it comes down to whether or not you should move into the cloud and whether or not it makes sense. So for me personally, I'm always looking at ways of soft dollar savings, so reducing your capital costs. So on-premise computing, frankly, is expensive. So if there is a way to offset some of that expense while looking at the cloud and optimizing your platforms as a whole, that's always something to look at. Another great benefit when it comes down to cloud computing is, frankly, the flexibility that it offers. So the beauty of cloud computing is it's a usage-based platform. So in traditional software licensing, you constantly deal with a depreciation life cycle of products. So after 3 years, have I reaped my ROI? Is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? When it comes to cloud computing, you have the ability to scale at will. So if your business has a jump or a spike, you can scale to that without having to risk more financial products, software, licenses, new hardware, new servers. You have the ability to scale at will. So we'll just kind of get right to it. When it comes down to renewing to the cloud, Microsoft has a nice incentive out there. So basically, if you are renewing before July 31st, or if you would like to transition over into cloud computing before July 31st. So keep that in mind, is it's not a straight renewal. You can also do net new, but under open value and open value subscriptions, Microsoft is also offering a pretty heavy discount. So 15% you can get on the entire Office 365 E3 plan, which we'll illustrate and kind of walk through exactly what's included within that plan. You also can get 20% off if you just want to look at Office 365 ProPlus, so just your Office licenses. Keep in mind that it is on the price list currently, and it's only there and valid until July 31st. But it is a fantastic option when it comes down to kind of financial analysis of does it make sense to look at the cloud. When it comes down to it, you never want to push or kind of hammer away at discount, and that's the reason to buy. But it is nice to understand exactly what's offered out there, and if it makes sense from a due diligence perspective outside of the financials, does it make sense? But this is definitely a great offer and a great benefit. So just kind of hammering just on kind of the T's and C's of the actual. One thing to note is that it's a minimum of 5 licenses and a maximum of 250 seats per customer. So frankly, and to put that into context, if you need 250 seats or higher, there are some higher level agreements which may make better sense in the grand scheme of it. But just to kind of reiterate, it's for Office 365 E3 plans or the Office 365 Pro Plus under the Open Value program or Open Value subscription. And then as mentioned, it doesn't matter if it's a renewal or if it's net new. As long as it's a net new Open Value subscription, you can or Open Value contract, you can buy those licenses. And last point is that this is for commercial and government. So it does not include 501c3 customers or nonprofit charity. So just to kind of put things into context, so there are many different ways to buy a Microsoft license. There's 38 different options, frankly, to buy any license from Microsoft as a whole. This incentive is tied just to Open Value, so Open Value or Open Value subscriptions. So just to kind of put it into context with maybe the way that you've bought in the past, or maybe you weren't aware of, but Open Value subscriptions as a volume license contract have some inherent benefits for customers when it comes down to managing their licenses. So it kind of rests and hinges upon the VLSC, or the Volume License Service Center. It's a centralized dashboard, centralized view of your contracts, your products, downloads and keys, as well as your software assurance benefits. So at any point in time, you can view 10,000 feet away exactly what you own, what's installed, what keys are available, quantity of licenses, as well as the software assurance benefits, which frankly are I would say, kind of put it as massively underutilized in customers, where you buy a license and you gain additional benefits such as training vouchers, 24/7 problem resolution support, just a plethora of different at-home use rights. A lot of customers don't understand how to use them. With the VLSC site, not only do you have visibility into it, you can assign different people to manage that. So someone in your organization wants to be in charge of, let's say, the home use program. You can assign that within the VLSC site, make sure that you utilize those benefits. Another great benefit of the Open Value program is that this is a 3-year contract. You have the ability to lock in the price for any 365 seats, once again, purchased before July 31st, within the first year. So you're not subject in terms to pricing fluctuations and pricing changes that Microsoft could have when it comes down to their product lines. And frankly, year in, year out, Microsoft basically raises their price across product lines about 3.5%. So you can deflect that, having a higher level volume license agreement. And then frankly, when it comes down to it, it's all about price, right? So Microsoft Open, the first foray into volume license, Open Value contracts have a minimum of 3 to 5% price decrease compared to open licensing. And when it comes down to the open market, so if you just went to Microsoft.com and purchased, you're looking at a 10 to 12% decrease in price by just looking at optimizing the contract that it's under. So kind of 10,000 feet away, an open value contract is a beneficial contract. And then obviously, it's a higher level agreement, so you have higher level management and visibility capabilities and better price, which is always a great thing. So now I'm going to hand it off to my compadre, Andrew Wolf, our Office 365 onboarding lead for the United States.
Thank you, Charlie. So we're using this slide to just illustrate what the E3 plan is. We've talked about it a little bit, and we've said E3 ProPlus. This just gives you a nice visual of what services at a high level you're getting with your Enterprise 3 plan. You get Office Pro Plus, which you can buy standalone, and you can purchase any of these products standalone, but when you buy them in the Enterprise 3 license group, you get a nice, I believe, 15% discount with it. So you get SharePoint Online, you get Lync Online, which includes Presence, IM, and Voice, and then Exchange Online for your mailboxes. So going to the next slide, these are the benefits that you receive from going with the Enterprise 3 plan. It's a full suite that's designed for enterprises. It really is not a single product. It is a grouping of products that are designed to help your workers get as much done as they can. You get data loss prevention and information management rights, as well as access, Excel, Visio services, and InfoPath file forms. And you get access to all of these services anywhere you go. You get 5 installs on a mobile device as well as 5 laptop installs. So if you can take your work wherever you have to go, and you get that full suite of products wherever you have to go. It's not like you're tied to a specific computer or a specific desktop.
An interesting piece on the 365, the 5 installs was I was on the road and my laptop, unfortunately I forgot my power charger. So my laptop dies. Well, I needed to get access to, I received an email and I couldn't open it up on my phone. I didn't have Office installed on my iPhone, so I went to the hotel computer, logged into my O365 account. Not only did I access all the products that I needed, so I needed Excel and PowerPoint, but also because I was logging in under myself, my preferences came across. So I got all my kind of obscure Excel preferences that I like to use came across with it. So having the flexibility of take your access anywhere kind of proved its worth in this scenario, and it would have been bad. I'll just put it that way.
All right, and then I see we have a question that came up. Is there a document or website that it shows how to actually use an Office 365 license, how to apply it to an installed Office client? What you can do is, once you've assigned the Office Pro Plus license to your user, they're able to go into their home page, and right on the home page there's a number of tiles, one of which is Office Pro Plus. You can immediately download it and start using a lighter version of Office Pro Plus, and the rest of it will install in the background. If you already have Office installed on, say, a work computer and it's 2010 version, Microsoft has it so Office Pro Plus can run side by side with Office 2010. There is some documentation for this online that we can certainly look into.
Okay, so kind of as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation it's not just about here's a license, here's the price. When it really comes down to cloud computing, you have to take the time for due diligence. So what we wanted to illustrate and at least kind of spark the conversation and spark the questions in your own heads is comparing the on-premise versus cloud options. Typically they're going to be cost-driven, but it's an apples to oranges comparison. On-premise carries with it so many peripheral spend, peripheral monies when it comes down to propping up an infrastructure and delivering your software out to your clients and out to your end users. Cloud's a little bit different. So there's some comparison, some documentation out there for what does it cost? $731 per year per server for electricity to run an on-premise server. Now, it's in 2 different ways. It's not only the electricity to the power to just keep the servers humming and keep them going, but also the amount of time that you need to keep it cool, because it keeps up, servers create heat, so the HVAC costs. So all those things cost additional money. frankly, everybody has a server room, so the real estate costs. Is there a better way that you could utilize the hardware costs that you have? If you're an organization, I know there's many out there that have very strict guidelines for capital expenditure versus operational expense. So from a CapEx perspective, it's the hardware, it's the spend, it's the hard dollar tactile things, and the operational expense is the maintenance. So what does it actually cost to maintain a server, maintain software assurance, or any of the maintenance packages with that? Next step is always going to be bandwidth. So something to always keep in mind is if you're an on-premise shop, you need to have X amount of bandwidth in order to facilitate your business needs day in, day out. However, if you go to the cloud, you now have significantly more pressure, frankly, on your bandwidth. So there's actually a website which is referenced on the slide, bandwidthpool.com. They have an easy calculator on there where you can say, all right, if I was going to honestly move over to 365 or maybe were to move a workload over into Azure, is it possible, is my current infrastructure, could it handle it from a bandwidth perspective? So it at least raises the questions. So maybe you haven't thought about this in the past, but definitely something to be concerned with as you kind of navigate the new cloud architecture as a whole. Next one is always big, is the 5-year rule. And frankly, I put it in quotes because it's no longer a 5-year rule. Everyone's depreciation life cycle is different. So is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? I have a lot of customers, frankly, who had Office ProPlus with software assurance, so they had the perpetual license plus software assurance to maintain new version rights. And they're now looking critically at their investment saying, okay, we made the investment towards perpetual licensing and software assurance, but we know full well within the next 36 months we're going to move over into Office 365 and cloud computing. Does it make sense on my renewal to maintain and renew my software assurance? Or does it make sense to take that software assurance spend and reapply it towards an early adoption under 365? And frankly, at this point in time, with 15 to 20% off, maybe is that the tipping point at which point it becomes financially responsible to look at it and say, okay, maybe now is the time. Next one is huge, and it's downtime costs. So on-premise solutions will have downtime. Service interruptions. It's a fact of life. When you look at cloud computing is not 100% uptime. It is not, and nor will it ever be. Microsoft guarantees a 99.95% uptime. But what you have to do, and I think the point to take away here is, what does downtime costs actually cost your organization? So is there a way for you to understand, if I went down, what does that cost me per minute, per half hour, per day? And put things into context of, all right, what was my service outages in the last 5 years, and what is my downtime cost relate to that? If, hypothetically, I was moved to 365 or moved to Azure, what is their service level agreement and downtime cost ratios, 99.96, 99.98, and how would that relate? And put things into context. So once again, it's relative to every organization, but it's something to keep in mind. And then last part, frankly, is to know your total cost of ownership. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, there are many, many factors when it comes down to moving infrastructure over into cloud computing, the peripheral savings, but also the hypothetical costs. So if you had to increase your bandwidth, what would it actually take to provide the same service and the same level of support to your end users if you moved over to cloud computing, divided by basically the savings that you would have from on-premise. So two of the things I have on the bottom here, and just as to illustrate, and this is, it's never an out-of-the-box solution, but rather a way to look at things, is what would it cost if I had an on-premise Exchange server versus my Office 365? Where's my break even, and where's my spend? Where is it reduced? Where does it increase? You may see, frankly, as you move over to certain cloud computing platforms, a spike in price, but you recoup that price hand over fist, basically, in 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. this is what we're trying to illustrate, is that any move towards cloud computing should be a financial analysis for an extended period of time. Any of these cost analysis SoftwareOne can provide. From a conversation standpoint, we can look at how your licensing cost structures would look long term, and then working with you to illustrate, kind of the behind the scenes costs, so your total cost of ownership. We can help develop a roadmap of your and make more of a predictive software life cycle when it comes down to anything cloud related. Second illustration is just to illustrate an on-premise server, anyone, versus some of the Azure platforms as well. Keep in mind with Azure, you pay for what you use. If you don't use it, you don't pay for it. Versus on-premise servers, you hope that you'll gain full ROI and utilize that server effectively, but it's not guaranteed. It's a capital expense. You have it, you own it, we hope to use it.
So real quick, we're just going to take a look at the Office 365 Pro Plus. As I mentioned earlier, you can do a side-by-side installation with older versions of Office. This is because Office Pro Plus will always give you the latest and greatest version, or latest and greatest features of Office. You can do, the side-by-side is really so that you can make sure if you have apps that integrate with certain versions like Office 2010 or even Office 2013, you can run side-by-side. So just to note, Office 365 Pro Plus is not like Office 2013 or even Office 2016. It's its own version that will continually update with new and improved features. And then you get the 5 installs per user on a PC as well as 5 installs on a mobile device. And as I mentioned, it is automated software distribution support and background updates. So it's always going to be giving you the latest updates and versions. You don't have to worry about patching. You don't have to worry about, okay, we've got to make sure we get everything. We have to go through and check it and make sure we can push it out to everyone. It will automatically do all that for you. So we've kind of talked about Office Pro Plus and really what is the main challenges to your enterprise in trying to go from on-premise to Office 365 in the cloud. The initial and quite frankly one of the biggest issues is password proliferation. You're going to be in the cloud, okay, do I really have to have a whole other set of credentials and user profiles that not only does my IT department have to manage, but my users have to remember 2 different sets, 3 different sets, however many different sets of passwords, and you don't want them to be fatigued with all that or even worry about the security of having all these passwords and your users are like, I'm just not going to remember this, I'm going to start writing it down. So to look at that, we can give you a seamless user authentication experience. You put a lot of effort into managing your on-premise Active Directory that you don't want to have to duplicate that effort in the cloud. With a directory synchronization server, one of our offerings, we help you stand up the DirSync server as part of our Cloud Sync offering, and we make sure that you can take your on-premise Active Directory and have a one-way same sign-on sync into Windows Azure Active Directory, which is the backbone of Office 365, so that way any changes you make to your on-premise will be pushed up to Office 365. All right, I see we have a question. Once a Pro Plus license is assigned to a user, can it be easily removed and reassigned to a new employee upon termination? Yes, what you can do is go into your user management in Office 365. You can completely delete that user out of it, or you can even go into your on-premise Active Directory, delete it out, and then the next time that you have a Delta sync into Windows Azure Active Directory, that user will no longer be there, and the license, not only the Office Pro Plus, but the Enterprise 3 license will go back into your pool of available licenses. It's very simple, very intuitive. And then if you'd like to take it a step further, you can go from same sign-on to single sign-on, where you can get your user attributes synced using DirSync, and then authentication is passed back through your federation using an ADFS server. So as I mentioned, we have a Cloud Sync offering for Office 365, and it's really designed to get you over that initial identity management hump and kind of get you familiar with your Office 365 portal. This is not a walkthrough of all the features and options that you have, but it really gives you a first step into your portal and allows you to figure out what you don't know, because oftentimes that's very difficult to ascertain when you're starting out with a new product. We can answer some basic questions, and we show you how to get your directory sync server up and running. We help you install it on your on-premise server, as well as assigning licenses to your Office 365 users once they've been synced up. Again, it's really designed to get you over that initial hump of identity management, and the directory sync is the building block of a number of single sign-on solutions.
Okay, interesting segue. So as Andrew mentioned, the backbone for Cloud Sync for Office 365 is Azure Active Directory. So I just wanted to take a brief second and just illustrate exactly what Microsoft Azure Active Directory is, and that I think the best way to put it is frankly into an example where Active Directory on Azure is basically an open door. So meaning that it's your first step into validating your end users for your Microsoft products. So the products that are, Office 365, Azure, anything else within Microsoft. But also it has thousands of popular SaaS applications. So Salesforce, Workday, Concur, DocuSign, Google Apps, Dropbox, more. So all these products as a whole, Active Directory Premium offers that flexibility where you can not only have Active Directory sync within your Office Microsoft products, but also outside and third-party applications as a whole. So as kind of Andrew mentioned, that first initial hurdle of walking into cloud products, you want to make sure that you still maintain visibility and control. Well, Azure as the backbone has that capabilities for you there. So speaking of Azure, and I just want to take a real brief, believe me, Azure is, it's not a product in search of a problem. It's a solution that it's almost limitless in the amount of things that you can do with Azure as a whole. So I just wanted to touch real high order of what you could possibly do with Azure. I mean, you can build infrastructure, you can develop modern applications and scale them at need. The ability to gain insights from your data, so business intelligence, it's through the roof. And then last part is really the managing identity and access as a whole. So kind of next slide is, if you look at Azure from 10,000 feet away, on the left side you'll see your traditional on-premise server. You're 100% in charge. You're 100% in charge of patching, maintenance, runtime, absolutely everything, the middleware, so your security, your backup, absolutely everything. So as kind of mentioned earlier about the soft dollar cost, you can kind of put it in the context of, well, what does it take, any middleware that I do have, or how am I going to virtualize, and am I using VMware to virtualize my stack? Then you look at the possibilities within Azure. You can do infrastructure as a service, meaning that you're going to handle all the front-end work. Microsoft will have all the servers, but you're in charge of your own VMs. You can move over into platform as a service, where basically Microsoft will update the operating system at will. They'll make sure that your operating system is always up and running, but you're in charge of your application and data. So a great example for why you would go one direction or the other. If you have an application that frankly is a homegrown one and is dependent upon a 2008 server R2, or maybe a 2005 server, it all depends. If you move over into certain realms of the Azure, Microsoft's going to update it, and you might have service interruptions. So just kind of illustrating that there is flexibility when it comes to looking at Azure as a whole and which direction you want to go, whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or frankly as simple as software as a service. And I think main takeaway point there is, how much control do you want to have in your products and services in the cloud? So do you want to build the data center in the cloud and maintain 100% control over it, or give off and hand off some of that control? I think another very important part is understanding how your business operates. So some of the patterning that takes place within an organization's infrastructure will determine is it cost effective to look at Azure. So put it into context. Let's say you're Amazon and you have to plan ahead for that peak season, November, December, with all the online orders. That's a predictable burst. You know exactly how many transactions are going to take place. If it was on-premise, you have to have enough servers to handle that max workload, where 90% of the year, 95% of the year, you don't come close to efficiently using those servers as a whole. There's a lot of different scenarios, and frankly, once again, this is a take behind or a leave behind for our attendees is think about how your patterns within your organization. You have spikes on-off, so frankly, large query requests and then a large amount of time of idleness. So each one of those will have possibilities to keep in mind when looking at Azure as a whole. So as very similar to the Office 365, once you migrate, it's not just about buying the licenses, it's about setting it up properly, and that's via Cloud Sync. On the Azure platform, there's also. So what we do as a company as a whole is, if you want to look at Azure as a whole, we offer a complimentary onboarding. Now, the easiest way to think about this is an introduction to your enterprise enrollment. And by the way, if I could preface it, an enterprise enrollment for Azure isn't a large financial commitment. It's $1,200 a year or $100 per month of usage of the Azure platform and all its different services. So it's a very small commitment to start using cloud services as a whole, and then kind of exploring exactly which workloads would make most sense in the cloud. Well, the difficulty, frankly, is that onboarding or getting yourself correctly set up in the administration portal takes time. Microsoft offers a free onboarding service as well. It takes about 20 minutes for Microsoft. We feel as an organization that that's frankly just not enough. It's very, very complex when it comes to setting up your administration the right way in tree structure. So how do you need visibility into how you're using Azure product? Is it an HR group or an HR app that's using most of the product? That you need to drill down and exactly see, which subscription, which part of Azure is consuming the most. Is it our test dev? Is it our in-production HR app or different applications you can put over into Azure? So part of what we do is rationalize and discuss the methodology of how to consume and utilize Azure products. So not only just an activation of your enrollment, which Microsoft will do, but an overview of those management accounts to see who will have access, why, and who's going to have access into those subscriptions from a test dev, from an in-production, from a visibility from a chargeback or billback scenario. Then we'll also, as part of the onboarding process, examine, do you have any pay-as-you-go accounts? Or you went directly to Microsoft and you already are using Azure. But frankly, it's difficult because it's billed per month as pay-as-you-go. You'd much rather have it under a more enterprise-level contract, which you can add, and have full visibility from an enterprise perspective. So just as kind of a 10,000-foot why of Azure onboarding. So this is just kind of a visual of exactly how complex it actually gets, both from an enterprise perspective, departments, the accounts, all the way down to the subscriptions. So great example, we had a customer recently who was using Azure, not a ton, but has been using it for about 18 months or so, and ended up having 27 different subscription IDs within their organization. Now the person who was the online services advisor, basically the quote-unquote person in charge, didn't have visibility into anything. He only saw that there was 3 departments using it, but he did not see that there was 27 different ways that Azure was being used and consumed across the organization. So part of our onboarding process, and this was all done as pay-as-you-go. So part of the process that as we migrated that over, we made sure that we rationalized the visibility so that the enterprise administrator had full awareness, not only of the departments, but also the accounts and different applications that were being used, all the way down to the subscriptions. So, you don't want your SQL guy messing with your test dev guy, messing with your in-production guy. but you need to at least keep an eye on them from a utilization, from a usage perspective. So very, very critical and important that if you use the Azure platform, that you understand and have an awareness of the pitfalls and red flags that could be out there. So imperative that onboarding, and once again, this is complementary. We don't want to sell a product and have it go underutilized or have frustrations that come from it. So Azure and all the cloud computing products, we take kind of extra special care of to make sure that the knowledge transfer is complete and that you're satisfied with the product as a whole. Thank you very much for your time today. Please let us know, your inside counterparts or Andrew or myself, if you do have any additional questions. Please feel free. We're here to help. We understand fully that looking at cloud as an option is a very complex issue and a complex question. So we're here to help guide that process start to finish.